are here at Uba Seu, which is Uba, the original name of the Yuba River. The landscape just comes alive, and it's all because of this waterway. Our tribe has the vision that we belong to this land. It does not belong to us. Our creation story says that we came from our sacred mountain, Escamianim, which today we know as the Marysville Buttes. From the tribe's point of view, we've always been here. We originated from the land, we came out of the land, and we are here, and we've always been here. And we got our language and all of our customs and traditions from the land itself. Why is a watershed so important to a tribe? All you had was the landscape and nature and everything that was in it. Everything that thrived off of one another was very important in the Nisenan diet. Salmon was one of the main staple food sources for our tribe. There are old stories that the salmon were so plentiful that you could walk across their backs when they were spawning. There were so many. And it's not just the food source, though. This is the part that when I was young, I was always excited because it's so different from how we live today. Every piece of the animal or the plant or the tree, whatever was harvested, everything was used in the way of Nisenan life. And that's from like toys to religious ceremonial items, your house, of course your food, your medicine, things that you use for prayer. And of course they used everything on the fish. The bones were used for jewelry, also pounded up and put into the acorn soup. And I think that's that reverence for the landscape. I know when I talked to my grandma and grandpa about the past, I would always ask him, tell me about the magic, Grandpa. I wanted to know about our spiritual ways and our old protocols and our old mysteries and dances and things like that. The gentle way that they lived in the watershed. We learned from the animals. We learned how to make houses and get our food, and all these things we learned from the animals and their stories. Like the great grizzly is where a lot of the women learned to mother, because if you know a mama grizzly bear, you can understand how that would come to pass. Coyote is somebody my grandpa always told me, you don't want to be like Coyote, because he's greedy, he's lazy, he's always trying to trick people to do his work for him, all these different things. There's so much knowledge and wisdom there of how to be a human on this planet and how to be human with each other and to walk gently in this place in balance. My grandma would always laugh, and she would say, oh, you girls couldn't last a day back then without your running water and your car and your electricity and your washing machine. Your roads, your house. She'd go on and on. There was none of that. Grandma said the old ladies, their whole thing was the town site had to be near water, and we have so many springs here. The way that people moved about the landscape didn't destroy anything. You didn't overpick the plants. You always took what you needed. There are so many lessons of how to live on the land. The livelihood, the blood of a watershed is, go figure, the waterway itself. And what the Yuba used to be, it was untamable. Of course, we have reservoirs and dams and things to control the water now for our farming and our industry downstream, which is incredibly important. But even in its contained state, this place has a spirit. I asked my grandpa one time, because he was telling me, about how our modern water systems are based on the old mining flumes, which no probably water person would ever engineer it to look this way today. If you had an empty landscape, you can imagine the old floodplain, what that was and what resources it brought, the different waterfowl, the different birds and animals and everybody that came. And of course, it's what made our California farming industry what it is today. That floodplain of all of our rivers that were so huge and mighty and uncontrollable back in the day. The biodiversity here where we live is very rich. There were all kinds of animals and waterfowl and plants and minerals. We had so many things we could trade. We've changed things so drastically, either on purpose or accidentally. And a lot of what we have today is from the gold rush, of course. As soon as the gold rush came, there was, of course, lots of violence and really awful, awful stuff that I feel just as being a human. You see the worst of humanity sometimes comes out when there's something to be had, and people want something, and it's greed, and it's ugly, and it happened here to our people and to our landscape. You can literally see from space, like Google Earth, you can see the scars from the hydraulic mining on land. The destruction, the loss of life, the changing of entire rivers moved out of their beds. This is where destruction is. And look at nature, what it does. It's incredible, the resilience of nature. If we can just undo some of that stuff, nature is going to thrive. My grandpa used to tell me stories. It was the spirits of the water and the land that he remembered, that he told me about, that I think really is why people want to live where we live today. We have this deep connection, and I think in that connection is where our environmental stewardship comes from in each of us. But I think that's where kids really come in. Kids get it. If I could impart some of that feeling, though, to other folks who come here, there's just this deep-seated care for this place and knowing that we belong here. People come, and they come to this place, and I really feel that they are in some way tapping into those spirits that my grandpa was talking about, the spirits of the water, the spirits of the trees. This place has its own identity. What gives me hope is that people are of good heart and mind right now. People are listening to one another. If everybody could just pick up a piece of the responsibility of taking care of this place, and if we could infuse enough people with that idea and the value of land, and I see it happening. It's slow, but it really is starting to happen where people are listening, and that gives me hope.